Airbnbs always made me uneasy. You're staying in a stranger's house, sleeping in their bed, surrounded by their things, trusting that they're exactly who they claim to be. When I booked this one, it looked perfect. A small studio apartment on the edge of town, clean, modern, affordable. The host, a woman named Kara, had glowing reviews. I was in town for a 3-day photography job, so I didn't think much of it. The first night was fine. Quiet neighborhood, good Wi-Fi, nothing out of place. But the second night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a faint clicking sound. It wasn't loud, just a soft tick every few seconds, coming from somewhere near the bathroom. Half asleep, I followed the sound until I noticed something odd about the bathroom mirror. It was slightly tilted forward, not flush with the wall like I remembered. I touched the edge, and the clicking stopped. For a second, I thought I imagined it. Then I leaned closer and noticed a tiny hole near the corner of the glass. Not a crack, a perfectly round hole, about the size of a camera lens. A chill ran down my spine. I grabbed my phone's flashlight and aimed it at the hole. On the other side, something metallic glinted faintly, and for just a second, I thought I saw light reflecting back, like someone was watching me from the other side. I stood there for a long time, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. Maybe it was just a screw hole or a piece of hardware behind the mirror. But the longer I stared, the worse the feeling got. Something about that mirror was wrong. I leaned closer and realized it wasn't even a real bathroom mirror. No screw mounts, no visible frame. It was just a thick sheet of glass glued into the wall. I tapped it once. The sound was hollow. There was space behind it. I didn't want to find out how much, but curiosity won. I grabbed a small makeup brush from the counter and tried wedging it behind the edge. The glass flexed slightly. When I pressed harder, the corner shifted with a faint scraping sound. That's when I heard something move. Not from my side, but behind the wall. A soft shuffle, like fabric brushing wood. Then, silence. My heart started pounding. I backed out of the bathroom, keeping my eyes on the mirror. I grabbed my phone and opened the Airbnb chat. My fingers shook as I typed, "Hey Kara, weird question. Is there some kind of crawl space or utility access behind the bathroom mirror?" No response. I checked the time, 2:17 a.m. I sat on the bed, staring at the dark bathroom doorway. Every few seconds, I swore I heard another sound from inside. Not shuffling this time, a slow, rhythmic tap on glass, like a fingertip. I finally decided I wasn't sleeping there another minute. I threw on my jacket and started packing my gear when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Kara. "There's nothing behind the mirror, please don't touch it." That was it. No emoji, no explanation, just that one line. I typed back immediately. "Then what's the noise? It sounds like someone's back there." No response. I went back to the bathroom door, flashlight trembling slightly in my hand. The mirror was perfectly still now, the surface catching the dim glow from my phone. Then, from behind the wall, came a short, dry cough. I nearly dropped my phone. I stepped back toward the door, and that's when I noticed something new. At the base of the bathroom wall, near the tile, there was a thin vent, one I hadn't noticed before. I crouched down, shining the light through it. The space behind it wasn't drywall or insulation. It was open, hollow. And right there, through the slats of the vent, I saw it. A human eye, blinking, watching me. I stumbled back, slamming the door shut and bolting it from the outside. Then I ran straight out of the apartment into the cold night air. When I got to my car, I looked back through the window one last time. The bathroom light had turned on by itself, and in the mirror, I could see the faint outline of a hand pressed against the glass. I sat in my car outside the Airbnb, engine idling, trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind kept replaying that moment, the eye, the blinking, that soft cough from behind the wall. I grabbed my phone again and called the Airbnb emergency line. A woman answered quickly, her tone too calm for what I was describing. I told her there was someone inside the wall of the property. She said, "We'll reach out to the host immediately." But before I could hang up, a message notification appeared from Kara. "Don't call anyone. You're safe. Just stay in the room." My blood ran cold. I looked up at the window. The bathroom light was still on. The curtain in front of it shifted slightly, like someone was moving inside. I decided I was done waiting. I called 911. By the time 2 officers arrived, the lights inside were off. I unlocked the door for them, still shaking. One went straight for the bathroom, while the other stayed with me near the front. "Anyone else staying here with you?" he asked. I just shook my head. A moment later, the officer from the bathroom called out, "Hey, you need to see this!" We walked in together. The mirror was cracked down the center, splintering across the glass. The vent at the base of the wall was pried open, screws scattered on the floor. Behind it was a dark gap about 2 feet wide, a hidden passage. The officer shined his light in. It led into a narrow crawl space that seemed to run the length of the apartment. The smell was awful. Sweat, mildew, and something sour. He ducked inside for just a moment before backing out again, his face pale. "Someone's been living back there," he said. "There's bedding, food wrappers, even a camera set up." A camera. They pulled it out a few minutes later, an old camcorder rigged to a long cable running through the wall. The lens pointed directly toward the back of the mirror. My stomach turned. On the tiny screen, I could see a frozen frame of the bathroom from earlier that night. Me, standing there, staring into the glass. The feed time-stamped only 10 minutes before I'd run out. The officers started searching the rest of the property, but whoever had been hiding there was gone. Before they left, one of them pointed at a dark spot on the wall, a small word scratched into the paint with something sharp. It read, "Smile." The police sealed off the Airbnb that night. I slept in my car until morning, too shaken to even close my eyes. When I checked my phone later, the Airbnb listing was gone. No Kara, no listing photos, nothing. Like it had never existed. A detective followed up a week later. He said they traced the property to a fake name and unverified ID. No real homeowner was registered at that address for the last 2 years. Whoever Kara was, she didn't exist. But someone had clearly been staying there. The crawl space behind the wall led to an adjoining unit that was supposed to be vacant. Inside, they found evidence of a bedroll, half-eaten food, and a box full of old mini DV tapes. The detective didn't let me see them, but I overheard one of the officers mention what was on them. Dozens of clips of different guests, showering, sleeping, changing clothes, all taken through the same mirror. He said one tape was dated from the week before I booked the room. And the last one? It ended at 2:18 a.m., just before I'd first heard the clicking sound. They never found the person responsible. I deleted my Airbnb account the next day. But sometimes, in hotel rooms or bathrooms, I'll still catch myself checking every mirror. And every once in a while, when I shine a flashlight against the glass, I swear I can see something behind it. The faintest glint of metal, like a camera lens, waiting for me to look back. When I booked that Airbnb, it was supposed to be a peaceful getaway. A quiet 2-story lake house just outside a small town, surrounded by woods and silence. Exactly what I needed after a rough month. The host, Lydia, met me at the door. She was friendly, maybe too friendly, with that kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. She walked me through the place, showing me the kitchen, the deck, and my room upstairs. Everything seemed fine until I noticed a door at the end of the hallway. It was locked. I didn't think much of it until Lydia paused beside it. "That room's off limits," she said quickly. "It's just storage. Please don't try to open it." Her tone changed when she said it, the warmth gone, replaced with something sharper. I nodded and moved on, but that door stuck in my mind all evening. Later, after Lydia left, I sat by the window watching the lake. The house creaked every few minutes. Normal for an old place, I told myself. But around midnight, I heard something from the hallway. A faint knock. 3 slow, heavy taps from behind the locked door. Then a voice, muffled but clear enough to freeze the blood in my veins. "Let me out." I stayed frozen in bed for a long time after that. The knock had been too clear to be pipes or old wood. It sounded like knuckles on solid wood, deliberate and slow. I finally forced myself to get up and step into the hallway. The light from my phone barely reached the far end. That door stood in the dark, motionless, completely ordinary except for the way it seemed to wait. I whispered, Hello? No answer. Just the faint tick of the clock downstairs and the soft rustle of the trees outside. I took a few slow steps toward it until I was close enough to see the keyhole. It was filled in, sealed with something dark, like wax. That bothered me more than the knock did. If it was really just a storage room, why seal the lock? I reached out and tapped on the door myself, just once. The sound echoed. Then I heard it again, a faint thud, like something brushing against the other side. That was enough for me. I went back to my room, locked my door, and left a lamp on. By morning, everything looked normal again. The house seemed harmless in daylight. Lydia dropped by around 9 a.m. to check in and drop off breakfast. She smiled like nothing had happened. I asked casually, "What's in that locked room?" Her expression flickered. "Old family things. It's not safe to open. The floor's unstable." Then she changed the subject and left. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I started to drift off, I'd hear soft creaks from the hallway, footsteps, too light to be hers. Around 1 a.m., something new, a dragging sound. It started at the far end of the hall and stopped right outside my door. I held my breath. For a full minute, nothing. Then the faintest whisper, "Please, don't tell her." I shot upright, grabbed my phone and turned on the light. No one there. The next morning, I packed to leave. I'd had enough. But when I went to the front door, my suitcase was gone. It wasn't in the hall or the living room. It had been moved. And then I saw it. At the top of the stairs, the locked door was open, just a crack. I should have walked away. I should have run. But instead, I went up slowly, heart hammering in my throat. The smell hit first, musty like rotted wood and old clothes. The room beyond was dark, no windows, no furniture. And on the far wall, scratched deep into the plaster, were words written over and over again. "Don't open the door." I stood in the doorway staring at those words, my breath fogging in the cold air. "Don't open the door." They were carved hundreds of times, some old and faded, some deep and fresh. The smell of damp earth and decay clung to the room. There were no windows, no lights, just darkness that seemed to swallow the beam of my phone's flashlight. Something scraped behind me. I spun around. The door, the one that had been half open, was slowly closing. I lunged forward to stop it, but it slammed shut in my face with a force that rattled the frame. "Lydia!" I shouted. "Is this some kind of joke?" No response. I twisted the handle. It wouldn't budge. I tried shoving my shoulder into it, but the door didn't move an inch. My flashlight flickered. The air grew heavy, colder by the second. Then, from the far corner of the room, I heard breathing. Soft at first, but deep, uneven. I turned the light toward it, and for a split second, I saw something. Not a person exactly. A shape, crouched low to the floor, pale skin glinting faintly in the light. Then it scurried backward, out of sight. I pressed myself against the wall, my pulse hammering so loud I could barely hear. Something moved again, a whisper. "She promised." I didn't care what it was anymore. I kicked the door, once, twice, and on the third try, it burst open. I stumbled out into the hallway, gasping. The air outside the room felt warm again, almost normal. But when I looked back, the door was wide open, swinging gently. From the bottom of the stairs, Lydia's voice floated up. "Why did you go in there?" Her tone wasn't angry, it was terrified. Before I could answer, she ran up, grabbed my wrist, and slammed the door shut herself, locking it with a heavy click. Her hands were trembling. I stammered, "What's in there?" She looked me dead in the eye. "Not what. Who?" Then she whispered, "It was my sister. She won't leave." Lydia made me leave the house that night. She didn't yell, she didn't explain. She just shoved my bag into my hands and told me I needed to go now. I didn't argue. As I drove away, I saw her standing in the upstairs window, right beside that locked door. The light flickered behind her, then went out completely. I didn't sleep. I booked a cheap motel 2 towns over and called the Airbnb hotline the next morning. They said the listing didn't exist. When I tried to show them the confirmation email, it was gone from my inbox. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched the address online. The only thing I found was an article from 6 years earlier, a story about 2 sisters who'd owned that same house. The younger one, Marianne, had died there after falling down the stairs. The older sister, Lydia, was questioned but never charged. The article said she'd refused to leave the property, claimed Marianne still lived in her room upstairs. I shut my laptop immediately. That night, as I unpacked my suitcase, I found something wedged inside, something I hadn't packed. A small brass key. Attached to it was a torn tag, handwritten in fading ink. 229. Don't open the door. I'd stayed in dozens of Airbnbs before, but this one felt different the moment I walked in. It wasn't the decor or the smell or even the silence. It was the way the air felt used, like someone had just been there and stepped out seconds before I arrived. The listing said it was a small cabin near the mountains, owned by an older man named David. The reviews were short but positive. Clean, quiet, nice view. I'd booked it for a week to finish some freelance writing and clear my head. When I got there, the key was waiting in a lockbox. Inside, everything looked perfect. Tidy, lived in, but not cluttered. There was just one thing. On the kitchen counter, there was a steaming cup of coffee. Fresh, still hot. I checked my phone. No new messages, no note from the host saying he'd been around. The cabin was supposed to be self-check-in. I walked through every room. Kitchen, living room, bedroom. Nothing out of place. But in the hallway, near the back, there was a second door. The handle was scratched, and the paint around it looked recently patched, like someone had tried to cover something up. When I pressed my ear to it, I heard faint movement, slow, uneven breathing. I called out softly, "David?" The breathing stopped, and then a man's voice, close enough to sound like it was right on the other side of the wood, whispered, "You weren't supposed to come yet." For a few seconds, I didn't move. The voice was too clear to mistake for pipes or wind. It was low, controlled, calm. I took a cautious step back and stared at the door. "David?" I said again, trying to keep my voice steady. "Is that you?" Nothing. Just silence. I stood there listening. The air in the hallway was cold, heavier somehow. I glanced around. The windows were shut, the heater off, yet I could see my breath. Then came the sound again, a slow, deliberate shuffle from behind that door, like someone pacing in a small space. I reached for my phone and opened the Airbnb app. My fingers shook as I typed, "Hey David, just checked in. Are you here right now?" A minute later, the read receipt popped up, but no reply. I started backing toward the living room when I heard the click of a latch from upstairs. There was no upstairs, or at least, there wasn't supposed to be. I followed the sound down the hallway and realized the ceiling above the closet had a square outline, a pull-down attic hatch. The string hung low enough to grab. That's when I noticed it. Faint footprints on the wooden floor beneath it. Bare feet. Every instinct screamed to leave, but something in me needed to know. I grabbed the string and pulled. The attic ladder dropped with a slow creak, dust falling around me. A rush of air came down with it. The same smell as that coffee on the counter. Strong, bitter, too fresh for an empty house. I climbed a few steps, shining my phone's flashlight into the dark. Boxes, old furniture, and in the corner, a mattress. The sheets were wrinkled like someone had just gotten up. Then I heard it, a quiet inhale from somewhere just out of the light. I froze. "David?" No answer, but I swear I saw something shift, a silhouette moving away from the light toward the back of the attic. I climbed down slowly, keeping my eyes on the hatch. When my feet touched the floor, I heard a soft thud above me, like someone crawling. Then the voice came again, right through the boards overhead, whispering the same words, slower this time, almost like a sigh. "You weren't supposed to come yet." I bolted for the front door. The handle wouldn't turn. It was locked, from the inside. And when I checked the lockbox outside the door through the window, the key was gone. I yanked the door handle again and again, but it wouldn't move. It felt jammed, like someone had slid a bolt from the other side. My pulse thudded in my ears. I turned back toward the hallway, every creak of the cabin sounding closer now, more deliberate. I shouted, "Who's in here?" No response. Then something upstairs shifted. Slow steps, not walking, dragging. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife from the counter, the only thing that made me feel remotely sane. I tried the back door, but it was nailed shut from the inside. Who nails a door shut in a rental house? The footsteps above me stopped directly over my head, and then I heard breathing again, right through the ceiling. The attic hatch was still open, the ladder half lowered. My phone's flashlight beam trembled as I aimed it upward. The mattress was empty now, but hanging down over the edge of the hatch was a hand, pale, still. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the coffee table. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. The hand twitched, just slightly, then pulled back into the dark. I bolted toward the bathroom and slammed the door. I called 911, whispering every word. The operator said they were sending a deputy right away. I waited, crouched beside the tub, knife clutched in my shaking hand. After what felt like hours, I heard a vehicle pull up outside. Red and blue lights flashed faintly through the frosted bathroom window. Then came a knock. "Sheriff's office, you can open up now." I sprinted to the front door and unlocked it. 2 deputies stood there. I tried to explain everything, the attic, the voice, the hand. But when they checked, the ladder was gone. The hatch was sealed shut, like it had never been opened. One deputy said quietly, "This property's been vacant for months. The owner died last year." I just stared at him. He looked around the living room, his flashlight stopping on the counter. There were 2 coffee cups sitting side by side now, both steaming. The deputies didn't find anyone. They searched the attic, the crawl space, even under the floorboards. Nothing. No footprints, no signs of a break-in. They chalked it up to stress and told me to stay somewhere else for the night. I left without arguing. But before I drove away, I looked back at the cabin one last time. The upstairs light flicked on for just a second, then went dark again. A few weeks later, I got a call from the county sheriff. He said they'd finally reviewed the property records, and there was a man named David who used to own that cabin. He'd rented it out for years until one winter, a guest found him dead inside. He'd suffered a heart attack. In the attic. When they found him, he'd been sitting upright on a mattress, as if he'd just woken up. The sheriff said it was probably a coincidence, but something about the way he said "used to own" didn't sit right with me. I checked my Airbnb history later that night. The listing was gone, just like it never existed. But the messages from David were still there. The last one sent at 12:04 a.m., the same night I stayed there. It just said, "Sorry, I wasn't ready for company."